Hello and welcome back for round 6 of the Eternal Tournament Series, week 6, season 1. I am Sir Rhino, and here to help me bring in this penultimate round before we cut to top 8 is IlyaK. How you doing, Ilya?
Still great. Casting this interesting matchup, and this round we have Gunslingers, the newly buffed deck, thanks to Champion of Chaos now becoming a gunslinger and becoming literally playable, against Alicimo on Xenon mid range with what looks to be elements of Life Force and elements of Xenon killers thrown together in a pile of Xenon good stuff.
Yep. So this is a combination, as you said, like just good stuff. We've seen killers in the past, and this was called killers on the deck doc, but it's honestly gotten so far away from that Xena midrange is what it is. The newly buffed Lunar Magus is moving in here with Beckoning Lumen as a card draw package. But you still have your Auric Interrogator with Xenon Initiation, but notably no Dark Return. Dawnwalkers are in the sideboard now. Only one Xenon Obelisk, so not a lot of weight. Like Auric Interrogator isn't the star of this show like it has been in the past. He's more of just an also ran that's a very strong card. But as you said, on the other end, we've got Stone Scar Gunslingers, and this is a version of the deck that was popping up even before the patch. You know, the Hideout Pistol buff was really nice for Gunslingers. And this combines both a gunslinger plan with madness, a madness package with Combust, Grenadin Drone, and Ashara Ruthless Assassin, which can combine with madness to be a sacrifice outlet as well.
Right. So essentially, it's going to be a question of who has the better interaction lining up. Against Stone Scar, Banish is a death strike for 3. While everyone knows just how much havoc a Madness combo can wreak on time decks, so we'll have to see who essentially has the better draws. As the Suffocates line up well against the Lunar Magus, the Torches line up Ion and Auric Interrogator, the Madness line up well against Sandstorm Titan. Overall, though, I think I have to give the edge to Alicimo just because of how well Ayan and Banish line up Scar is trying to do. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if we see it go the other.
Yeah, my one concern with Alicimo going into this matchup, yeah, the Blistersing Wasps are annoying, but the removal package isn't quite as strong as it could be against a Gunslinger deck. Yes, Banish is very good, but 2 Death Strikes, those can be a little slow. Xenon Initiation into all of these deadly units can feel really rough. So that would be the concern here, especially when your opponent's playing Torches and Annihilates in response to it. So your Varus choices are in the side, you have Annihilates in the side, your Suffocates are in the side. In the main deck, your removal might not be right. And if these Gunslingers can get a board going or even stall, a Bandit Queen can push through a lot of damage. And even with Alicimo playing Temple Scribe to go with his Beckoning Lumen, you're even giving extra fodder for Vicious Highwayman to push through. So this matchup's really interesting in how these draws and answers and threats are going to line up, because they can go a lot of different ways because both players have such strong threats. As you said, it could line up well for Alicimo, but I wouldn't be shocked if Krizalio's lines up better.
Yeah, it's definitely a match that I think is going to be fairly close. I know that the big Xenon that you played at Worlds, I think would do a little bit better as Strain to Shadow is havoc against the Stone Scar deck. But with this Xenon mid-range deck, it's going to be quite a close match.
Yeah, it can really depend on, do the pieces fit together. Sometimes Combust and Madness and Ashara show up and be amazing, and sometimes you don't get all the pieces you want, and you end up with some really clunky draws with this Gunslinger's decks where you have no units you actually want to use Combust on, either on your side of the board or theirs, and that's where it can get really awkward as this match gets underway. Mulligans are resolved, and this is what I'm talking about. Krizalio's got to Combust, but an Instigator and 2 Champions of Chaos, you don't really have any units who want to give up here.
Right. Krizalio needs to find some grinding quickly. And in his list, he doesn't run any assembly lines, so that's gonna be a card that's awkwardly sitting in his hand.
Yeah. Oh man. And we even see a Sabotage whiff here. That's one of the benefits of running less removal in this Xenon list, is if sabotages a popular card, your Blitzing Wash, which essentially functions as removal, doesn't get hit by it.
Right. So Krizalio missing that crucial third power. He's going to play out this Instigator. He's going to have his draws are really going to have to help him out here. And a crucial Shadow Sigil off the top, which will enable his entire hand.
Yeah.
Krizalio is swinging in with that Instigator, trading 2-drop for 2-drop, 1 life for 1 life. And out comes the first of 3 Champion of Chaoses.
Yeah, Krizalio has 4 3-cost units, and they're now all deadly. So that Predatory Carnosaur that Alicimo just ripped off the top does not have any tasty targets at the moment.
That's definitely true. So Ion trades for Champion of Chaos.
Trigger's Beckoning Lumen. So Alicimo effectively getting a 2-for-1 there, right? Trading off the Ion 3-drop for 3-drop, but it replaces itself with that Beckoning Lumen trigger.
Right. And so when you're at 27 and Stone Scar is already at 3 power, you're probably sitting pretty, but a pair of champions can change that in a hurry. But as we see, Alicimo has a second Ion in hand.
And there we also see that another source of life gain that you might not have noticed, Amber Waystone triggering Beckoning Lumen here. So already, not a Life Force deck dedicated. This is the only Life Force card in the deck, but enough incidental life gain all over the place between Ion and some other cards that you're going to get a couple triggers off Beckoning if you plan it right. But here we see a Hideout Pistol off the top to take out that pesky Lumen and force the Ion to trade off here. It was an interesting choice there, though. You could have opted to not trade with the Champion of Chaos because you had a Beckoning Lumen in hand to get the trigger with, but Alicimo opted to trade and is rewarded by drawing another Ion off the top.
Oh my goodness, 3 Ions. Oh boy, that's ugly if you're a Stone Scar player. Krizalio, unaware of this Predatory Carnosaur in hand, to go for the 2+1 play. And out comes the Ion, and what I have to assume is going to be Predatory Carnosaur going to get this, pick up this Instigator practically for free.
Yeah, it could be tempting to go Instigator plus Becky here so that you get a Beckoning Lumen trigger. But man, that is such a good target for this Carnosaur, and you'll put through so much damage here that I'd be hard pressed to pass up on that opportunity when you have Stone Scar on the back foot like this.
So out comes the hungry Carnosaur, Chomp, and in comes 7 damage. And you're in trouble when you're down 3 power and down 19 life as Stone Scar. But oh my, Krizalio sees Madness on the top of his deck. Now the choice is between Ashara to activate that Madness next turn, or the Champion of Chaos to potentially trade with this Carnosaur.
Yeah, that depleted power ended up being a blessing in disguise. You wanted to be able to play a unit and combust this turn off of an undepleted power, but that crest showed Madness is up next, and now you can kind of get greedy with this combust, wait it out, and get even more value out of it. Instead of killing one of your own Grenadiers, you'll be able to kill one of Alicimo's units. But down comes Argenport Instigator. Krizalio's already at 16, and we'll trade off this Champion of Chaos with that Predatory Carnosaur as Beckoning Lumen comes down and draws even more cards for Alicimo here.
We'll have to see if this Madness Combust is enough. Alicimo having 4 threats on the board and ahead by that much life, I'm not sure it will be.
Well, if you Madness the Ion, you can swing with that and gain a little bit more life and deny the ultimate that it's threatening to have, as Alicimo's up to 8 power while Krizalio's on 4. So I think that'll be
absolutely correct. This Ion absolutely has to go. Yeah. So Krizalio knows what's going on. He's gonna gain 3 life, and then going to have his pick of the litter as to what to blow up with this. He's going to need a bit more help. I think you have to go for the Beckoning Gloom here because 5 attack is just more than that that the Instigator
Yeah,
is.
5 is more than 3, but I think Krizalio's thinking about instigator triggers, right? You have
That's
Grenadins
also
here
true.
that aren't trading with units, they're chump blocking. So it's this weird math of, well, the 5/3 is bigger, but does the instigator represent more damage? And Krizalio thinks it does, as we see the combust come out on there. I think you could go either way, as you were suggesting, but a space in 2 Sandstorm Titans in hand for Alicimo on 8 power.
Oh
I don't know
goodness.
how Krizalio is coming back from this. Just too many threats from this Xenon deck.
Right. Yeah. Ricano Outlaw is not going to be what Krizalio needs to get out of this, and he just scoops it up, sees the
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we talked about how potentially Banish could be devastating against this deck. 0 Banish that game. 0 spells that game from Xenon. Just units on units on units on units. And just too much pressure as the Xenon deck got to curve out slightly better than this Gunslinger's deck. And once it got on the back foot, it couldn't quite recover despite the Hideout Pistol and Madness Combust and all those things. It was just struggling to keep up with the tide of threats thanks to Beckoning Lumen constantly getting triggered there in the mid game.
Right. Three Ions and 2 Beckoning Lumens, and eventually those extra cards are going to add up. And that's essentially what we saw happen between the Whiffed Sabotage, between the Ion triggering Beckoning Lumen, and then the Amber Waystone triggering Beckoning Lumen. Those few cards are going to matter against an adversary.
So now we get to move to sideboard, and this Gunslinger's deck can really change up what it's doing. I think the first order of business will be getting 2 extra Annihilates in the deck against Predatory Carnosaur decks. That's just where you want to be. Yeah, it misses out on Blister Sting Wasp and Eye on the Inductor, but it hits every other unit in Alicimo's deck for 2 costs. That's just amazing. There's also a Statuary Maiden lurking in the sideboard, and against these time mid-range decks, she can do a lot of work.
Right. If against time decks, if you can somehow manage to sneak past their few spell-based forms of interaction, then if you have bigger units than a time deck is going to be very unhappy, and especially if those cudgels go on something like a Champion of Chaos that's just going to push through a bunch of near unblockable damage. So we'll have to see what the sideboard shapes up to be, but it's up to Krizalio to make something happen.
Yeah. The question then also becomes, what are you cutting out as we get to this second game? Because do you still keep in the full force sabotage in a matchup like this when your opponent's just you're really more concerned about their threats more than maybe their removal?
Yeah, against the Xenon mid-range, a lot of their points of power are on their units, as opposed to big Xenon with something like that really depends on its Varus choices, its Annihilates, its Strange Shadows. So I think you do cut some of the sabotages, and I definitely think you cut the Suffocates.
Yeah, and it looks like he at least kept in most of this Combust Madness package, maybe even emphasizes there an extra Madness and Combust in the sideboard. But here we see the turn 1 Grenadin Drone crucially drawing a Shadow Sigil off the top. But these Hideout Pistols have no Gunslingers. Well, I spoke too soon as a timely Ricano Outlaw comes off the top for Krizalio here.
So Krizalio making things happen with the 1/2.
Yeah. And this is a scary turn for Alicimo here. This kind of goes back to the classic problems against Xenon initiation decks that now you also have to consider against Gunslinger decks, where Hideout Pistol, by letting this Ricano Outlaw live, lines up perfectly against this Lunar Magus.
Right. So Alicimo was unable to find a second undepleted shadow source. So, and if he'd be able to, he'd just have the one-time double shadow up and pass representing the Ion, but couldn't do that, and so developed the Lunar Magus to try and stem some aggression, and that just did not work.
And it doubly backfired because his removal in hand was a Suffocate. And now Ricano Outlaw is out of Suffocate range, way out of Suffocate range, as a second pistol goes up on it here to clear out this Auric Interrogator and take Alicimo down to 8.
Yeah, if
There's
Gunslingers gets going with its hideout pistols, then you'll be dead before you know it. As Krizalio opted to just say, if it moves, I'm killing it,
Yeah.
and already it represents lethal. And with this Ion in hand, Alicimo is going to have his back against the wall, because if you just eat a Grenadin here, assuming it even attacks, then you might just wind up eating the combustion on the Ion that Krizalio has in.
Sure. But honestly, Ion might be the best draw possible here for Alicimo, considering Krizalio's hand, which has a madness. And here is what happens. What you speculated on: no swing with the Grenadin, playing around that Ion representation, and forcing Alicimo to commit it now. End of turn, with really no good attack thanks to this Champion of Chaos getting buffed up. And now you're just setting up a brutal Madness Combust this next turn that Alicimo has no way to get out of.
Right. This Xena initiation might come down on this Ion just to gain some life.
But then you die to the Champion of Chaos.
And Krizalio is going to say, in how many ways would you like me to kill you? As a 5/4 Bandit Queen is the draw for the turn. But Krizalio is just going to say, nope, I got this. Madness the Titan, and that's going to prompt a concede.
Yeah, so a tale of two games there as Krizalio evens up the series 1-1. We're going to go to a game 3, and there we saw the power of madness. Alicimo stumbling out the gates there a bit, no 2-drop, and then his 3-drop just getting hit by that massive swing of these double hideout pistol draw. That Ricano Outlaw was the key. If he didn't draw that right on that turn, we would have been talking about a very different game. But hey, your deck's named Gunslingers for a reason. It's got a lot of gunslingers in them.
Right. So, time for game 3. And Krizalio will opt to mulligan his hand and redraws into a hand that needs a lot of help, as he's looking at a Diplomatic Seal, Fire Sigil, and a Rhino Outlaw, and just 2 Asharas and 2 Vicious Highwaymen. This draw needs to pick up power in a hurry.
Yeah, the good news, though, is that at least you have some things to do in the meantime, right? A Torch and a Ricano Outlaw are both castable here. The Outlaw body isn't super great against a deck full of 3/3s and 3/4s, and it needs a bit of help to get going, and you don't really care about its War Cries because you want to draw power, but it's still better than nothing. And here we see Alicimo had some options as far as what to do on this turn, but goes with the Varus favor so that he can develop his power more smoothly.
A hideout pistol is the draw for Krizalio. So unless Alicimo has the Ion, which he does, then a 3-drop would definitely bite the dust. But this Torch in Krizalio's hand that Alicimo sniffed out when they saw the pause is definitely there. So a Champion of Chaos is the draw for Krizalio, and he's going to miss 3rd power. However, this hideout pistol is going to come out, and at least I think, and put this Rhino Outlaw to 4/2.
Opting to Torch instead. That's a bold move, because a hideout pistol on a Ricano Outlaw with Torch backup is really hard to answer. But instead, opting to use Torch, and here comes the Sandstorm Titan. No option of using a pistol on that, but Krizalio crucially draws a Shadow Source and can get down a Ruthless Assassin here.
So Ashara is going to come down, but Krizalio is not going to have any attacks really, because you can't attack with the Outlaw to a Titan.
Yeah.
And Alicimo says, okay, you're the beatdown, so if you're blocking, you're losing, and so just slams that Titan into that Ashara, and a crucial Annihilate off the top for Krizalio. That's going to immediately get cast and blow up the 2nd Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah. Another
But
slightly surprising sequence there, though, from Alicimo. I think I would have liked to have just seen the banner pre-combat and just played the Rhino post-combat, use your power efficiently rather than playing Sandstorm Pain there. But he wanted the threat that had endurance going forward. And
right,
Krizalio, as you said, crucially found that removal. And now crucially finds that Fire Source to unlock these Vicious Highwaymen. Although they can't really ping away a Rhino. They are big in terms of strength in being able to take down a Rhino. But instead, we'll see the deadly unit come out, and in comes the Rhino again. Alicimo thinking about being the beatdown here, but also thinking about what's going on in hand. Maybe wants to Temple Scribe first, see the draw, and decide from there.
right. So Alicimo is saying, well, when the Stone Scar is blocking, he's losing. So he's really deciding, do I want to just slam in with this Einarch and offer the trade? And so Dev just decides slam. I think Krizalio is going to take this block easily, as that sets up a Highwayman turn next turn, and then unless Alicimo draws a Carnosaur, then anything is going to die to a. Let's see if this attack is finalized.
Yeah. This is the downside to playing Temple Scribe now. For a long time, it was one of the best cards to play in almost any time deck, but with Vicious Highwayman's rise to prominence, there is a real downside to just playing one health unit in a deck with 0 other 1 health units, and that it gives the Highwayman some food to munch on, and that'll let it swing into this Lunar Magus that gets deployed by Alicimo.
Oh wow! So the Nightfall trigger gives Annihilate and a 5/5 Instigator. So Krizalio is just going to pick off this Lunar Magus without it gaining any life with a hideout pistol on the Sercano Outlaw. Meanwhile, this 5/5 Instigator is going to bring Alicimo for another point of damage, and Alicimo is just drawing dead, as a Varus Favor and a Xenon Banner are the draws for this turn. So Alicimo is really hoping that this Ion is going to come in, or a Sandstorm Titan, or it is going to be a Sandstorm Titan, but this Annihilate is going to pick that off as well. And which one of you needs shooting? That Temple Scribe was just food. And now 2 War Cries and 13 damage coming in. And Alicimo is going to go down to a precarious 2.
Yeah, this is looking over here. Ion can come down in Ultimate, but as you said, the Annihilate's there. Krizalio just has more threats, and it is not looking good for Alicimo here. These gunslingers, man, once they get a foothold, they keep it. That buff to hideout pistol really showing itself in this series, where both times Outlaw got to use a pistol to kill Lunar Maggots. And that used to be the case because Lunar Maggots also used to be a 2/4, but that one extra point of strength, not only it lets it kill more things, but do more damage, and that adds up fast. And here the Ion comes down, brings back a Titan, doesn't swing in, and simply Annihilate on the Titan is going to
that's going to be all she wrote. When you see a Stone Scar stuck on power and they draw out of it, you know you're in for a rough ride.
Yeah, doesn't even need to swing, can just use Highwayman to ping the face. Alicimo will deny the pleasure of that, though, and scoop it up. And yeah, Krizalio pulls off the reverse sweep, takes both post-board games, and wins the match 2-1.
Right, so in hindsight, that sometimes when a Stone Scar is stuck on power and you decide, oh, I'm going to show you the beatdown, I'm going to swing in with my Sandstorm Titans, rather than establishing the board, that may have proved fatal in hindsight.
Yeah, so as we said, it depended on how the draws lined up. Both decks were doing pretty strong things, but once the Stone Scar deck found the right combination of madness and combust and pistols and units, it was just too much for the Xenon deck to handle, especially when things like Carnosaurs couldn't come to rescue. Or did we see a banish in any of those games?
No, we didn't. So
that was costly
with 75 card decks, sometimes you just don't see a crucial 4 of, and that feels pretty awful. Well, this card is an absolute game breaker in this matchup. I just have to hope to draw it, and you don't draw a single of 4 copies. That's frustrating.
Yeah, so hats off to Krizalio and Alicimo as well. Krizalio now at X1 with 1 round left is in very good spot to try and lock up top 8. Alicimo's got to have some tiebreakers on their side if they want to close this out, but long shot's better than no shot. So with that, I want to get in a quick plug for other Eternal action that's going on this weekend, and I think you've been a part of this. The Eternal Tournament Series has another fun thing going on, and that's the Team League. The ETS Team League has been going on now for the past weeks alongside the ETS, and the playoffs are tomorrow. So we'll be bringing playoff coverage after as the season's gone on. There are just a few teams left, and we'll be covering that action. So at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we'll be doing coverage of SPG Revenge versus ET Phone and EWC Justice versus SPG Destiny. Those will be going on at 10 a.m. And then at 1 p.m., Owls and Dragons versus the Mouse and ET Home versus EWC Fire. So a lot of Team League action tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. here on aReNGee Eternals Twitch. And it's a really, really fun format where the teams are playing against each other, and you get to listen in on the team comms. So you get to hear the players discuss lines of play, thoughts about how to sideboard and everything else, and kind of really get a unique perspective where instead of you're hearing casters, you're hearing the players themselves. And it's a really great way to learn about what the best players in the business think as they play the game. And also the games are pretty entertaining as well. So check that out here on aReNGee Eternals Twitch stream tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. And
right, Team League is a different experience entirely. Not only do you have to get the lines of play better than your opponents do, but at the same time, you also need to think about lineups and the whole matchup lottery and how different decks lead off and back each other up in the chain of counter cycles and such. It's a very different experience, and as someone that's participated in I encourage anyone that thinks that maybe individual ETS play might be too much of a commitment to try your hand out for the Team League. It's less of a time commitment and a whole new dynamic and way to play Eternal. I think that many of you will enjoy it out there.
Yep. So with that all being said, again, Team League tomorrow, check it out. And in the meantime, we're going to take a short little break and be back with the final Swiss round before the top 8 of this week's ETS Open.
See you in round 7.